One of the most difficult passages, if not the most difficult passage in the scriptures, especially in the New Testament, is found in the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 16. I would like to read this from the New King James Version Bible, and we'll briefly discuss the issues that are laid out before us. Paul wrote to the Christians in Colossae, "So let no one judge you in food or in drink or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths." Many Christian friends of ours are using this text, this one text, to show us that, see, the seventh day Sabbath of the week is no longer binding. It is not required. Paul just abrogated keeping the seventh day Sabbath. Therefore, we can choose any day, or especially the first day of the week, which is Sunday, to make it our Christian Sabbath. Now, there's a problem here because many interpreters miss the point of what Paul was saying. Now, remember, Paul was a faithful Jew. He would not allow the Ten Commandments, especially the fourth commandment, telling us, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, to just be abrogated without making enough defense or making enough presentation among the Jewish Christians, among the Judaizers, so to speak, who were converted to Christianity. Now, just briefly, there are two Sabbaths that are being observed by the Old Covenant people of God during the historical time before the cross, and that is the Sabbath which God commanded after He created for 6 days, and on the seventh day He blessed, rested, and sanctified the seventh day Sabbath. Now there's another Sabbath that it is also called Sabbath in English, but was regulated by Moses. It was not given by God. It was regulated by Moses, although God instructed them as a type or as a shadow of what is to come, which is Jesus. The Sabbath here that Moses was regulating towards God's people is not the seventh-day Sabbath, but the yearly Sabbaths, the feast Sabbaths, which are not connected to the weekly Sabbath. Now, so the question here, dearly beloved, is this. Is this text in Colossians chapter 2, verse 16, talks about the seventh-day Sabbath or the yearly Sabbaths that Moses incorporated to the celebration of the Jewish people? Now, I would like to argue, basing on Paul's many other epistles, that Paul was not telling us not to keep the Ten Commandments. Paul was in no way in argument or against keeping the fourth commandment, which is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, which is the seventh day of the week, which is Saturday in our present time. Now, to be clear and concise here, Paul was trying to say here in this text, the Sabbath or sabbata in Greek, about the ceremonial Sabbath, which is from the Mosaic laws or from the law of Moses. This is not talking about the Sabbath which God ordained for us to keep every week. So there you have it, dearly beloved. If you will examine the linguistic, if you will examine the etymological root of this Sabbaths here that Paul was telling the Colossian Christians, I would say with firm conviction that this is not the seventh-day Sabbath which God Himself ordained. This is the ceremonial Sabbaths, which were a type of the antitype, Jesus Christ, telling us that this should not be kept anymore because Jesus Christ had come as a new covenant response to disobedience of the Old Testament fathers. Now, that was a rather complicated answer to a very difficult passage here. Although it was short, but I'm here to tell you that I believe this Sabbath here that Paul was using, Paul was talking about, that let no man judge you, he's not talking about the seventh day Sabbath of the week. And this is precisely the misunderstanding of the other Christian denomination or groups, to say, there you go, Saturday, the seventh day of the week. Yes, we know that it is Sabbath, but that is not binding based on Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. I would like to say, beloved, let us take a closer look. This is not the seventh day Sabbath. This is the ceremonial Sabbaths. I would say that the law of God, and especially the fourth commandment, is still binding for us Christians until now, because Jesus commanded us to keep it. And because we have a loving relationship with Jesus, we have a close covenant connection with Him in the new covenant historical era. We experience His grace, so therefore we respond by accepting His command for us to keep His commandments, including the fourth one, the seventh day Sabbath. Well, you can ask many other questions, but I would like to confirm that I believe that this text does not abrogate Christians to observe the seventh day Sabbath. It means that we are still required by the law of love to keep the command of God, especially the fourth one. Remember the Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week, Saturday, to keep it holy. This is God's covenant for those who accept and believe in His commandments. I hope and pray that love will triumph over misunderstandings and hatred. May God bless you. This is my prayer.